Joining us now for an update on what is taking place in Hammanskraal. We are now joined by the mayor of Tshwane. His name is Cilliers Brink, and he joins us via our Zoom line. Cilliers, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. One would ask, the first question posed at you is, I don't know if you saw that package that we just played for you. You were whisked away a bit earlier on, and residents of Tshwane or Hammanskraal will not let you come into the Jubilee Hospital. Are residents justified for the manner in which they reacted to your presence at the hospital?
Hi, Mbali. Good to talk to you. I think firstly, before I answer the question, it is of essential importance that we determine what the source of the cholera is, because before we've done that, we cannot contain the situation. If we simply speculate about the source, instead of actually casting the net as wide as possible, completing the tests, then we might miss something and end up mismanaging the situation. Now, some of the tests conducted on the Temba supply area, the supply line to taps in the Temba area, that is to say the areas not supplied by Rand Water or Moretele, tests were conducted on Saturday. The results of those tests became available today, this afternoon, and indicated negative tests for cholera. Now, further tests will be done. Further results will be available on Wednesday. But for the moment, we've got to cast our net wider than simply the Temba and the Rooiwal water line. So just to respond to the attempt by about 20 people at Jubilee Hospital, there's no doubt in my mind that this was politically orchestrated. There was a councillor from a different area who was apparently or seemingly part of this crowd, and there was a very deliberate attempt to prevent me from entering the hospital, but also to sort of stage something for the camera. So to say that this is the community, that would be disingenuous. Of course there's frustration. Of course it's a horrifying situation, the deaths, the state of the quality of the water, the frustration going back 20 years. But I think most residents would want political leadership to assume responsibility, to answer questions, to see for themselves what the situation is, instead of trying to block political leaders from doing their work.
And Cilliers, you also talk about where the source of the problem is. We also heard there the Deputy Minister saying that they've done investigations on Rand Water and as well as Magalies, and that's also currently underway. What is the situation really with the Temba plant specifically? Because, I think most questions are now being raised around that, because it's a plant that the city is currently responsible for.
Absolutely. And although for present purposes we can say that the taps from that supply area are not, according to tests, infected with cholera, the fact of the matter is that the water is not of potable standard. In other words, it shouldn't be used for drinking or cooking, and that's why for a number of years the city has provided water tankers to the area, provided warnings to say, do not use this water for the ordinary household purposes without boiling and treatment with water solution, cleaning receptacles with household bleach, and so forth. It is a terrible situation, and the result of the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant upstream effectively being out of capacity for many, many years, where the demand on that plant organically and hydraulically simply exceeds what is able to produce. And so the quality of the effluent that goes downstream towards the Temba purification plant is of such a poor quality that a great deal of chlorine has to be used at Temba, and this is a combination that renders that water just not suitable for human consumption. That problem is only going to be solved with large-scale upgrades to the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant. I have been very clear about the fact that successive administrations in Tshwane have clearly failed to address this problem. and that we will have to follow a new approach. I met with the Minister of Water last week.
And of course, Cilliers, and that's where I was coming, because it seemed as if, because there's been so much instability in Tshwane, you know, there's also this blame game where some are saying that, well, the city does not want to work with the provincial and national government. What is the situation now going forward, now that we've seen how bad this situation has turned out, where we've seen deaths in Hammanskraal? Is the city of Tshwane, along with the provincial government and national, willing to work together to find a resolution to something that's been happening in Hammanskraal for many years now?
Absolutely, Mbali. And let me just say, let me just make this point. It might be an irritating point to make, but it's very important that we must first establish the cause of this cholera outbreak. That does not take away from the absolute seriousness of the situation with Rooiwal and Themba, but we mustn't jump to conclusions. It might well be that Rooiwal and Themba is responsible for this, either directly or via the contamination of water tankers. Several tests still need to be done, but initial indications is that the Themba supply is not infected with cholera. But you are quite right. There has been several errors. There have been several mistakes. There have been several missteps. Last week, as I mentioned, I met with the Minister of Water before this crisis even broke. I said to him, we can perhaps use the opportunity of new political leadership in Tshwane to have a clean start and reset our relationship. You know that there's major dispute and litigation between Tshwane and the Department of Water Affairs over the situation. And I said to him that, is there no way that we can potentially work together to devise a solution jointly? Because I think ordinary people don't really care whether it's the city or whether it's the province or whether it's the national government. They simply demand their constitutional right to clean water. And it's in all of our interests to work together to achieve that. So how that will be achieved will be the subject of discussions. We agreed, the Minister and I, that our teams would meet within the next 2 weeks. Right. Several options would be on the table, but the essential point is that we've got to do things differently if we want different results.
All right, then thank you very much. That is the Tshwane Mayor there, Cilliers Brink, giving us an update on the situation in Tshwane.